somehow be special this time, since
That's what I thought. Yeah.
no, it
But
doesn't make sense, does it? Yeah.
no, I didn't think so, but I'm open to being wrong all the time.
Well, yeah. Well, and I guess, like Sebastian was saying last night, um, everything is for a purpose. So it's not like there's anything, everything is for a purpose. And so that
Yeah, everything has purpose here. Everything's a message, right?
everything is a message. So if you want to call it a message to be, and here, I'll put my face up here for a minute so you can say
Oh,
hello.
there you are. I can't do that, but you know what? You know what I
I'm
look
not
like.
sure why you can't do that. It doesn't make sense to me. Have you looked at your video settings on
Yeah,
Zoom?
the person did that was working on my computer. I just have to find someone else and I will. I just have been a little bit preoccupied. So,
Yeah, I understand that. No
yeah.
doubt.
So, I mean, I have my phone if I want to show my face.
Yeah, well, and we don't need to see your face because we're reading a book. So,
Not
uh,
only
uh,
that, but it's the kind of thing that I'm not even there. It's
yeah,
more authentic.
yeah, I think so too. I don't know. I'm
I mean, all
just,
that's here are voices, microphones,
that's right. Yep, that's
people.
it.
So the voice for God.
Yep. So taking a
So,
drink of
how's
coffee.
everything with you?
Good.
Oh,
Everything
good.
is going really well. And
I
uh,
couldn't make it last night. I don't know. I ran into stuff that I guess Amy was on last night, right? So you have that on YouTube?
no, we didn't do it on YouTube and we didn't record it. That per Amy's request that we just keep it more private. And
Oh,
so we didn't record it. And she said, if people are going to be here, they're going to come here. And if they're not going to come here, then they're not,
so
they're
what
not
was
missing
it?
anything.
What exactly was it that,
Well, it was basically the same thing that we always do.
okay.
She just felt like it would, if we weren't in the public eye or, recording or whatever, that people might be more authentic in their sharing. And
Sharon,
that
yes.
could be that could be true. And I didn't notice any real differences. But it was a great section that we read from the course, and it was, I think, very helpful as well. But I also recognize that it could be helpful to other people who were not able to be there. And but that's not up to me. She's the host, and whatever it is that she wants, I mean, I'm fine with it. I
Right,
mean,
right.
really, I don't even have any problem with it at all. But let's see if I still have it up here. What we read. Um, let's see. Is it this? Um, because it was about forgiveness. Okay, yeah, it was this paragraph here that we
Yeah,
read.
you have the wrong book up. It's Bill's book.
No, I'm just showing you this is what we read
Oh, is
last
this what
night.
you read last night?
Yeah, this is what we read last night
Oh,
in
okay, because
Amy's group.
Dove was Justice of God is also Dove was on. I wasn't there. I was at the doctor. Were you there
Okay,
yesterday
maybe
with Dove?
yeah, I was. Maybe that isn't what we read yesterday. But it was similar to this anyway. It's all the same. I
It's
thought I
all
had
this, you know
done
what?
it.
It's repetitive. Now, did Karen come?
No, no. Maybe this is what we read. Isn't that funny? There we go. This is it. This is what we read last night with Amy.
Let me
Um,
see. Forgiveness brings no miracles to lay before the king. It's funny because everything is saying the same thing.
yeah,
And that's what I see. Like just sitting with whatever it is and in the course that you love is all you need just to contemplate it every day. So it
yeah.
goes
I'm
deeper.
going to just copy this and post it in the Pal Talk room because I think this is really cool. This was a really beautiful um, practice that we did last night, and just more. Uh, I think, like I said, she wanted to be more intimate. But I'm just going to read this real quick since we got it up. Forgiveness.
Sure.
Oh, hey, Regis. Forgiveness brings no little miracles to lay before the gate of heaven. Here, the Son of God himself comes to receive each gift that brings him nearer to his home. Not one is lost, and none is cherished more than any other. Each reminds him of his Father's love as surely as the rest, and each one teaches him that what he feared, he loves the most. What but a miracle could change his mind so that he understands that love cannot be feared? What other miracle is there but this? And what else need there be to make the space between you disappear? Isn't that's just so beautiful?
It's all love. We're afraid of love.
Yeah,
That's what
we're
we're
afraid of
afraid of.
love. Yeah, and that's what in the Age of the Heart last night Sebastian came and it was just so beautiful. But basically, the what I got from that from reading that with him was that the most important thing that we can be doing right now is saying I love you.
To
Just saying
everyone.
I love
And
you.
right. To
Yeah.
everything. If Regis wants to join us, he can. I mean,
Yeah, well, good. Yeah, yeah,
if he wants
absolutely.
to read, I mean, this book, it'll take us a long time to finish because
I
it's
don't
big.
know. Because looky here how far we are. We're already 4% in, and we've been doing a couple weeks. So yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, the bottom line is that it's a beautiful, I love Bill. Just what I've read about him and just how he handled his life. And
Yeah, I think it's
of
great that
course, I
we.
don't need to special. That's what I'm trying to look at now, just make anyone special.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, face it. Those three, Helen, Bill, and Ken. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
they were special. I mean, they were brought together for a very specific purpose, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I wish you and I were brought together for that same purpose,
I
but we're
know.
not.
I know.
We're here to read it and to share it with the world. So I love that. So we ended on it also seems, and this was the whole discussion about the illnesses that Bill had when he was a child and how he was just kind of almost in a place where, you know, he was just in seclusion. He
Sure.
couldn't go out of the house, he couldn't go play. He was in bed for most of the time and being cared for by his mother. And, just that time, like, what was it, like a year and a half or close to 2 years or something, that he was unable to participate in the world when he was just a young boy. I think he was what, 9 years old or something when this happened. So maybe yeah, and
Yeah, a
so
lot happened. He had his mother lost two other children. So,
yeah, his sister died. His brother was died when he was a baby. So I don't think Bill actually knew him, but he did know his sister, and I mean, she was his world, and she died. And
sure.
6 months later he ended up with this scarlet fever, which led to rheumatic fever, which led to rheumatic heart, which led to basically a shifting in his life where he maybe would normally have done a lot of other things, but because of this he was put in a place where all he could do was sit.
Right. And be
Yeah,
patient.
yeah, be patient.
That's
So
the biggest thing for me. And I'm patient with people, but I need to slow down with myself.
yeah, yeah, I hear that. I do hear that too. So,
Just slow down.
yep.
The thing is, we get more done when we slow down. So you want to read this? It also seems from our
Yeah.
van. Okay, go
Okay.
ahead. You start.
Okay. Okay. All right. So it also seems from our vantage point that Bill learned the art of surrender at an early age. His long, solitary stay in bed, with its enforced introspection, facilitated a capacity for acceptance that would have great transfer value to other dimensions of his unfolding life. just as Helen noted that the urgency of the times required her to practice the art of, quote, inner dictation, unquote, sooner than a more leisurely pace of spiritual evolution might allow, it seems that Bill's nascent spiritual development was also accelerated. His years of quiet seclusion were like being in a monastery, where he could examine such thoughts as, who am I, or what is life's purpose? Catherine Prescott, a friend he met many years later, remembers Bill described himself as being very slow in reaction time. In his childhood, there was always so much time that he would savor each moment. He didn't have to rush, so that if one little thing happened, he was always slowing time down to make the moment last. I think part of his wisdom was the ability to hesitate and ponder what was going on. Wow. That's
That's a lot. So
but
he was just sitting with it and just
yeah,
wondering. It's funny because there's a book I got. I just love it. It's called Wake Up Grateful. And it's this woman that wrote it. She had cancer in her 30s and she just developed not a gratitude so much as gratefulness. And what that means is we miss everything. If we don't, like when we sip the water, do we really taste it? Do we slow down? Do we taste our food? Do we see that there's so much here, even in this ordinary? Because it's all about the extraordinary and the ordinary. And in the ordinary, it turns into extraordinary when you really see that it's always perfect and to slow down and feel it all.
yes. And I think that is why we keep coming back to the same lessons over and over,
Yes.
because we don't take the time to actually experience the experience. And so we
That's
miss it. And so we have to come back and it's like when if you're reading something and you're trying to read really fast, you're trying to, you're looking for a term or a word and you're just flipping through, flipping through, flipping through. I don't know if you've ever done this, but I
Oh
have.
my God, yes.
And looking. And you know, if you just slow down and look at all of it, you won't miss any of it and you'll get all of it. That's why, like I said, I think that's why we keep coming back to the same situations over and over and over again, is because we don't actually experience it while we're here. It's like we miss the experience. It's like sleeping through the movie.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
went to the theater, you paid for the ticket, you sat in the seat, and you don't know anything about what the movie was about because you
Well,
fell asleep.
what you sent out was so beautiful. The one about the guy.
Is that amazing?
Oh, I'm gonna just show it. I'm gonna show it to people that aren't even in this process because who knows when the light will go off? Because that's what's really here, just light. And
Yeah,
this is just this darkness that we're in, which isn't really darkness, but it's concepts, is just temporal, and it's actually made for our enjoyment, but we don't see that because we have grievances, and the grievances hide the light.
yeah, yeah. And for those who are just listening, what I sent out was a video of a man who, when he was a teenager, drowned, and while he was drowned, he basically went to heaven. He had a bunch of different experiences, and it was really a very amazing amazing video. And but then he was revived and he remembers all these things, and he was just saying, this is you know nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. This is the most amazing thing that'll ever happen to you. And really very, very cool, very beautiful. Regis had his hand up. Regis, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, good morning, Sharon and Leanne.
Good morning.
Sharon, the point that you was just making was really striking for me because, as you were saying, you were talking to the fact that we really let our story keep us from recognizing all the beauty and love that's right in front of us, right here, right now. And I just wrote this morning and sent it to someone prior to logging on to here, and something I came up with. You all heard me say I did foster care a lot throughout different states, and I noticed something with foster kids, but then I started noticing it in adults who were not literally in the foster care system, but who had things in the past, letdowns, failures, rejections when they were young or whatever, but they never did truly end up in the foster care system. But I started calling it foster care syndrome. I just made this up myself. And I said, and I wrote this to someone this morning. I said, foster care syndrome keep a person's mind on the wrong thing. They never can see the support that's showing up every day. They fight, resist, and bite the hand that is supporting while being bitter, angry, desperate, sad, and depressed about whom they thought would, should, or could have shown up for them. No real, and this is what Sharon was saying, no real gratitude or heart of thanks for what is right there in front of them.
Yeah.
Just stuck in the story of past letdowns. This they do to themselves, making their own life miserable, while also causing people supporting them to feel unappreciated and rejected. This is why Regis says, let go of the story and allow the glory. You can't have both.
You can't. No.
And our story is what keeps us from what you were talking about, Sharon, the gratitude for the day. There is so much love and goodness that is all around us every moment of the day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, that we just fly right through. As Lynn was saying, we just fly right through it. But we fly through it because inside, what's going on in our mind, our story is going on in our head, to the point that we don't even see the kindness, the support, the beauty, the smells, the sounds, nature. You know, that's why we have to, people teach us, we have to go out and focus on nature. Why? Why do we have to go out and on purpose focus on it when it's out there every time we open the door? You know, but that's because of the stories, the story that's just never ending, that we haven't come to that place of saying, hey, I got to let go of whatever the story is, whatever it's around, whatever it's about. And when you do that, you start being able to see what's in front of you. And it's just like walking into a room, or you being in a room with, or being at a party or gathering. And later, after the gathering is over, someone says, hey, I saw you, I waved at you, I spoke to you, but I was right in front of you, but you didn't look like you saw me. And you know why? No, because my mind was so entangled with what was going on within it that I couldn't even see what was in front of me.
Yeah, because we're blocked. Our
Yeah.
blocks are our concepts, and the concepts are our story.
Absolutely.
And we really
Absolutely.
do fall into there's something that we are, well, again, we're attracted to guilt. That's just the way it is. And we actually unconsciously believe that that's going to get us somewhere, where the moment, just the moment, is extraordinary. If you just sit in silence and just be. Mine will say, well, I don't see anything. It's just space. But there's so much in this space. And just the fact that you were a foster parent, I was something that now I'm, 69, I won't do it, but I would have loved to have been a foster parent, because I have such a love for people in general, even before I started this process. And now, of course, it's just been, the attraction to guilt is, it's a drug. And instead, the glory is in the moment. The moment is just perfect. So that's what I'm working on. And I have to say, it's a work in progress, because I, again, still have an ego, and, I'll get lost, but I come back to it and think, this is really ridiculous. This woman, her name is Christy Nelson. She doesn't know how she healed, but she was due fourth stage cancer through her body. and she healed herself. This guy, Brother David Steinrast, his name is, he talks about grateful living. It just automatically puts you in right-mindedness. And because the ego is, the ego is the addiction. You know, it's like what Lynn was talking about when we got on, that we are terrified of love. We are terrified that everything's perfect. We want somehow to make a story up. And I'm so done with it, Regis. I am so done with, there's no fun in it. All right, that's my dog. So I'll hand this back over to you, Lynn. But Regis,
Okay,
that was
thank you.
beautiful. I just love you, Regis. I can't believe you're Lynn's neighbor. I think we all have to plan a trip to Pueblo. That would be great because everybody wants to meet from our group. And now that Regis lives there and you do, that would probably be the best place. So we'll see.
Well, you've been out here before, Sharon, so you know,
Yeah, I loved it. You know,
yeah, yeah.
I love you, and I just, I think, I would love to talk to you just on how you moved there, but not for this hour. But just the idea that it's a beautiful place and it's actually affordable too.
Yeah, Sharon almost moved here.
I would have loved to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Oh, what our lives would have been had that happened. And
Right.
thank God you didn't, because look what you got now. It's like, we
Well, this
are,
is beautiful too. People don't know it. They don't know
yeah,
Altoona is absolutely beautiful.
yeah,
It's very affordable, but it's not like Philly where it's all culture. You don't even need that. Nature is culture.
yeah, yeah. And that's
Nature is what's real.
like we were talking about the just appreciation of what is happening right now. That's the whole point of all of this. Be here now. Don't be in the past, don't be in the future. What takes you out of now are thoughts about the past and the future. So, when you go out and you say, wow, this is a great eclipse, it's better than the eclipse that we had, 10 years ago when we were in Ohio or whatever. I think the last eclipse I was living in Ohio, and that I saw, was spectacular and all that business. But that what about right now? What's happening right now? This is the world I'm in, is this world that's right here and now. And when you realize that all those other places that you go to in your mind are just memories.
That's all it is.
It's
Yeah,
all
just
memories.
yeah.
The
And
only
we've
thing that's
already
not
visited
memory
the
is right now.
memories. When I was going to move to Pueblo, it was with Donna, right? When
Yes.
she opened the house in Pueblo. And again, God had another plan for me because I met my husband here. So
Right. You would never have probably met Claire.
no,
He
no,
wasn't
but
going
it
to
was
come out here.
definitely weird that I ended up here anyway. So,
Yeah. So,
but
but
they're
that's,
I like when places lend themselves. What I loved about Pueblo is the nature there too. It's just beautiful.
it really is. Although,
Glorian's here. Oh, I haven't seen Glorian.
hi, Gloria.
Yay. Okay,
Yeah.
Glorian, you can read too if you want.
I'm not sure that Regis, after the last week with all the wind and the fires, is probably thinking, what the heck did I do?
I don't know. I just think it's,
It was crazy. We had some crazy wind, but everybody had crazy wind.
yeah.
It was just
Well, I think that it's all like
not
climate
special.
change and
Yeah, but it's what it's what it is for our awakening. That's all. So anyway, continuing with our book. So Bill has been basically in seclusion for 3 years. Says after a 3-year absence from school, during which his mother tutored him, Bill was placed in a school for children who were crippled or had cardiac problems. His continued poor health caused him to miss from 6 weeks to 2 months of classes each semester. Despite these prolonged absences, however, he completed grammar school through the 8th grade in 3 years. Like every other child, Bill simply wanted to be normal. His early years had certainly been atypical, and once returned to school, he was moved into classes, then taken out and reinstalled elsewhere as his teachers tried to balance his extraordinary intellectual ability and, through lack of exposure, his underdeveloped social skills. With all the shifting around, he still ended up entering high school at age 12. He did what he could to fit in, attempting to compensate for being sick and missing 3 years of school. He was innately gifted and intellectually far ahead of his age group from the constant reading during his recovery period. Bill was also gifted in terms of music and theater. Classical music, especially Mozart, which he would discover during his college days, provided an important refuge and immense delight for him throughout his life. During his high school years, as his health returned, Bill took voice and piano lessons for which he was a natural. In his school essay, he noted, "While I never expected to be a finished pianist, nor a second Nelson Eddy, I find music as soothing as well as stimulating recreation." Bill, his best friend at the time, and I have had a lot of fun appearing in amateur shows and neighborhood musicals. This summer, I sang my first church solo at the Chicago Lawn Congregational Church, which church I attend regularly. Commenting on his current school, Lindblom High, he said, "It is here I have really found myself in its numerous activities. The a cappella choir is my first love, even though Mr. Taylor makes me sing tenor when I have a naturally bass voice. Participating in boys' clubs, the music club, camera club, and the Eagle have broadened my social experiences and have helped me to overcome my innate timidity. Realizing that I will never be able to do strenuous physical work, I wish to obtain a good educational foundation with the possibility of becoming a teacher." And then Carol continues, "He did become a teacher, although he rather famously proclaimed during his college years that the one thing he would never become was a professor, as he insisted he had nothing to profess. And wouldn't you know, almost every position he held thereafter involved a professorship as part of the job description. Never say never." And then here's a picture of Bill in his college years. He was really beautiful. Look at that sweet face. Oh my Lord. If you were looking at this
That's how I see him too. I feel the essence just because of the kindness. Look at that face.
I know, my God, who couldn't fall in love with that?
Gentle kindness, all of the attributes of God.
Yeah, so beautiful. Glorian, please go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I agree. I agree with that. It's a really good picture. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, you see the eyes. Look in those eyes. Just so beautiful and such a sweet smile. And those big ears. See how his big ears stick out? Of course, I have big ears that stick out, so people always tell me you must be a good listener.
I have big ears too.
Nothing to
Better
say
to
about
hear you,
anything
my
it does.
dear.
Yes, exactly. But it does say, he was a good listener. Okay, so continuing. After graduating from high school in 1940, where he was among the top 10 students in a class of about 1,000, Bill entered DePaul University in Greencastle, Indiana, on a full scholarship. As part of his continuing quest for normalcy and for companionship in this first experience living away from home, Bill joined a fraternity. He had no idea what he was getting into, believing this would be a support system of some kind. Having known Bill well, I cannot imagine him amid the noise and uproar of a fraternity house after long periods of near isolation, but somehow he managed. He indicated it was a difficult challenge for him with his strong need for privacy and his genuine interest in scholarship. It was hardly the support system he had naively envisioned. um, do you want to read now, Sharon?
Okay, if anybody else wants to, I'd love to share with people. Anyway, I'll just read a little bit. During high school, Bill had reconnected with a kindergarten friend, Joe, whom he had lost track of during the intervening years of his illness. Simply good friends in high school. She was going steady with someone else then. Their relationship devolved into something more after graduation. She was his only acknowledged girlfriend, according to all available information. Their parents knew each other, and the two young people were definitely considered an item. At Thanksgiving in 1943, he gave her his fraternity pin, in those days considered almost the same as an engagement ring. Joe remembers. I kept saying, Bill, why? Why do you want me to take your fraternity pin? Thinking that he would say, I love you. I want to marry you. But he didn't. He just said, because I want you to wear it more than anyone else in the world. He just kept insisting I take it. Yet I wasn't swept off my feet. He was also still my good kindergarten buddy. Anyway, I thought that if he wants me to wear it, I guess I'll wear it. Although I felt kind of awkward, I went back to the sorority house where I was staying at as their guest. That night, the girls came and got me and brought me out to the front of the house about midnight. The Chai Boys, with Bill right in the foreground, serenaded me. I felt a bit guilty about it all because all the girls were congratulating me. And I just couldn't tell them that it didn't mean what they thought it meant. Yeah, see, that's interesting because, he was gay and, I watched a really good movie I don't even know, it's called Invisible Boy. And it has to do with, of course, the story that we make up that there's something different if you're gay, when in fact, it means absolutely nothing. Everybody has a preference to what they like. And this does affect you. So I think in those days, Bill was probably reluctant to say he was gay.
Oh
That's
God, well, you're right about that because that was not socially acceptable at all.
right. And I mean, this was a good movie because it talked about conversion therapy, which is insane, but we are insane. We're all insane. The whole story is made up, all of it. And so we have to look at it. But yes, you're right, Lynn. And that in itself brings up so much guilt. I have friends that are gay and they have lived in guilt. They're older like me. And they, in art school, when I went to, and I guess it was in the 70s. Yeah, I went to college. And, back then it was almost like, oh no, you're gay. We better keep that quiet.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
wasn't.
here it is. Herb Fitch. She just read Herb Fitch has a whole thing about spirit being neither male or female. It's just our ignorance. But I mean, I'm just fortunate, I think, because I was an open-minded person my whole life when it came to, I didn't get that from my family where it was like wrong, whatever you were.
Yeah. Well,
I
and
think,
it's so interesting because if you do look and think that we've lived multiple lives in this dream and illusion that we're all the characters here, we love men, women, everything.
yes,
We're not different.
yeah.
And it wasn't until I was.
Yes, Lauren just read, he said, we were all other sex in past lives. And the bottom line is that if you look even in history, like art history, I studied. So back in the days, in the beginning of time, gay was more acceptable than heterosexual. Do you know that?
Now, when is this?
I have to, it's probably in the early, like, the Roman days, well,
Oh, oh. Well,
yeah,
they really didn't call it that. I don't think they thought about it that way.
right.
I
I
think
didn't even
they,
think it was awkward or anything. These
yeah,
rules just come as
yeah.
the ego became more and more. Yeah.
And really,
King
I think
Arthur's
that's more
Court. Yeah, that's what
natural.
she just wrote. King Arthur's Court.
Yeah, because when like I didn't until I was in my like late teens, I didn't really realize that, women could love other women, that there was, I knew, men, loving other men. I just never it was never brought out to me that, yeah, you can fall in love with another woman. And I fell in love with another woman and I was like, I don't even understand this. But, then I realized that's exactly all throughout my life where I had, crushes on the nuns at school. I had sexual fantasies about the nuns at school when I was a teenager. I mean, this is bad.
Well, it's just
This
this
is not something
one,
people want
right?
to hear
It's
about.
one
But
mind.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize, that was just natural. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like a perverted thing. It's a natural thing. We are meant to love each other.
Yes.
We're meant to love each other. And because, our understanding of love has a lot to do with the body, then, that's the only way we know how to interpret it until we recognize that love is one thing and not has nothing to do with the body. So,
It's all mind.
I'm glad, I finally figured it out. And, then I always just sit back and wonder, why don't people see this? This is the most natural thing to be in the world, is just love everybody no matter what. But and that's, now they're realizing, oh, that's a thing too. You can be, polyamorous. You can love
Absolutely.
everybody.
Yeah, none of it is wrong. Everything is just perfect, always.
It's all perfect, yeah. So
Love is
because
love.
God is polyamorous, God loves everybody
Right.
the same.
Well, it's what Gloria has said, like, we were all the other sex in past lives. Like, this is the fact that the ego wants to control and take us to the insanity of it being God. And
Yeah,
no, but again, the ego is nothing but resistance to the present moment. That's what I see. That's what it's always resisting just being here now, and I guess the stories that we make up, there's an energy that is really uncomfortable that most of us have when we believe that any of these rules mean anything. The Ten Commandments, all of it is nonsense, just nonsense.
yeah, it is. And I mean, some of it is common sense, like don't kill each other. Okay, that
Right.
makes
Well, that
sense
would
to
be
me.
natural.
You
Like,
know,
right, don't kill each other.
not, there's some things that just make common sense, but however, it's not the same. Gloria has her hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah,
Gloria.
please.
There are no bodies. There are no bodies. There's
That's
only,
right. That's
and,
right.
and ultimately, you weren't bad, Lynn. That's not bad. These are feelings. Feelings are neither bad nor good, all leading us to where we are supposed to be.
That's right. Yeah.
And, I think when we get to that place where we recognize that, spirit is neither male nor female. It just is. And I think, that's the point that many are evolving to. Now, for me in this life, I have a, affinity towards men, but it doesn't matter. It's the minds that join, not the bodies.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
It's just,
And
you know what? It's like, I watched it with Cliff, this movie. It's really worth watching because it was done in a way that this boy, was made to feel like he was wrong for being gay. And they all went to a conversion group. And it was just beautiful the way the mother stood up for her son. And she regretted because she was fearful in the beginning because the father wanted him to, you can't make someone be something they're not. And why would you? Why would you? But again, that's how we learn our lessons. Our lessons are always forgiveness, always unconditional love.
yeah,
So,
and I mean, it's the rules that people make up to try to protect themselves.
yes,
They're afraid of something that seems to be outside of their experience or what they think is right. But homosexuality, now we see that it's the most natural thing. Animals, every species of animal has, certain ones of them that are homosexual.
right.
That's, I mean, it's a natural thing. So how, we how and it's becoming more and more. I'm so excited because I do see so much movement now, and of course there's a lot of backlash also, but so much
Mhm.
movement now to normalizing these things that are actually normal and natural. So I love it.
So do I.
So okay, well, let's continue reading. We have about 20 minutes there. So do you want me to read now, or you want to
Yeah, you
continue?
can read it. Lori wants to, and I just love this book and I love the joining. So,
All right. Well, I'll read this. So they went together as a long distance romance. He was at DePauw until his graduation in February 1944. For the next year and in the fall of 1944, Joe left for the University of California at Berkeley. As she prepared to board the train, Bill gave her an orchid corsage and she questioned him about the fraternity pin. He remained vague and would take no other commitment than, "Please wear my fraternity pin." After a week at Berkeley, Jo was swept off her feet by a young Marine whom she ultimately married. She finally wrote to Bill of her new love and returned his pin in the spring of 1945. Jo heard no more from him until the late 1970s. Okay, so from our current perspective, we can only imagine Bill's situation. His girlfriend was out of his life. She had been suspecting his latent homosexuality, but being open about it was taboo at the time. A gay style was so unsupported in American society that he could not accept it totally within himself. It's possible, however, that living in a fraternity house in close quarters with so many young men, he allowed himself to be more honest privately about his inclinations, an honesty that had been too difficult before. All right, so chapter 2. World War II started while Bill was in college, but on graduating, he was rejected for the draft because of his rheumatic heart condition. Thus, after receiving his undergraduate degree in psychology from DePaul in February 1944 and being unable to participate in the military, Bill submitted his application and was accepted into the University of Chicago Medical School for the upcoming fall term. In addition to taking courses necessary for his psychology degree, he had also completed all necessary pre-med classes. Man, that's tough. Really. Hoping to earn money for his first year of medical school during the intervening 6 months, Bill applied for work at the University of Chicago. Oh my gosh, this is about one of my favorite parts of the Bill story here. So just checking. Okay, just checking to make sure the radio's still going. Okay, I love this. So he applied for a job at the University of Chicago. He was hired as one of 10 administrative officers and overseeing several buildings used as a testing areas for some highly classified research. Later, he learned it was research on atomic energy, the Manhattan Project. Soon after being hired, he was promoted to the faculty payroll and given a private office and secretary. One of my special assignments was to be in charge of a special crew of men, Bill later wrote, who went through various radioactive areas and tried to decontaminate them. I was required to wear a Geiger counter from the time I arrived in the morning until I left at night. This is so cool because, I worked for I worked for the Department of Energy and worked building nuclear weapons. And like, I was like all involved in, I handled plutonium and nuclear material and had to wear, badges and be monitored in and out and all that stuff. So, this is, this is so cool to me to read about Bill Thetford doing this. It's amazing. Okay, so atomic energy research was occurring in several locations around the country at that time, the University of Chicago being one of them, in a furious race with the Nazis to build a bomb during the final years of World War II. This research was the best kept secret around. More than 100,000 people were involved with the project in various locations, but most were in the dark about its exact nature and specific purpose, including Vice President Truman, who was told the details of the project only on assuming the presidency after Roosevelt's death. Everyone did know, however, that the United States and its allies were joined in a life or death struggle with a formidable enemy. Bill felt the excitement of this project he was part of, but like others, was unaware of its purpose and ramifications. He was told only that if these experiments were not successful in giving the United States the upper hand, it might mean the end of Western civilization as he knew it. One testing area for which he was responsible, this is so cool, was was beneath the stands of the University of Chicago football stadium, made available for research because the university's president had eliminated intercollegiate football as an interference to academic learning. The first chain reaction in the world took place there in December 1942. The irony was not lost on 20-year-old Bill. Given the heightened tensions throughout the country and the sense of urgency related to his supposedly interim job, Bill chose to continue on for another year, foregoing medical school that fall. The bombs were dropped on Japan in August 1945, and he resigned shortly thereafter on seeing the horrific results of the project's success. Wow. Although the university had given Bill the option to postpone entering medical school to continue with the Manhattan Project, he decided after some consideration not to enroll at all. Thus, in the fall of 1945, without much thought about where it would lead, he enrolled in the University of Chicago's Graduate School in Psychology, for the already noted psychologist Carl Rogers, whom we all know and love, was beginning to hold forth. Unaware of what people sensed about him, Bill was confused and surprised when Rogers offered him a teaching position almost immediately. And if those who don't or do or don't know Carl Rogers, he is the therapist who developed we're going to read about it, so I'm not going to tell you. But it's the basis for nonviolent communication. It's the basis for so many therapies that are being used now that are so helpful to us. All come from Carl Rogers, who Bill Thetford just stumbled into. Oh my God. What what a cosmic collision. Wow. Okay. All right. He was also the only member of Rogers' staff not imported from Ohio State University. Soon thereafter, Rogers invited him to participate in research on the merits of his signature client-centered psychotherapy. This was an innovative new approach to psychotherapy that emphasized the importance of relationships. Specifically, the Rogerian approach was based on unconditional positive regard, or perfect love, and its essential place in the success of client-centered therapy. Bill actually worked as a part-time Rogerian therapist for about a year, but did not feel called to it. Researching the science that provided the foundation for therapy was more to his liking. That inclination to examine therapeutic foundations through research into personality development would dominate his work for decades. And I just have to just be and wonder that, two of the people who the most influential in my life for, how I can see the world and be at peace right now, Bill Thetford and also Marshall Rosenberg, were both students of Carl Rogers. And I have tears in my eyes thinking about this right now because it's such a beautiful,
It's so
beautiful.
great. Yeah, there's so much gratitude in this whole process that, when we think about the fact that we felt, I mean, really, the course picks us. We don't pick the course. And the teachings just open up so many doors. But what I was attracted to the most was that it had a psychological component. It's basically a psycho-spiritual text. And then I just started to, because I love Carl Rogers. I mean, I just love anything that has to do with wisdom, growth, and I think that one of the things that I heard Keith Kavanaugh say about the Course in Miracles, he said it's a rescue mission. It's a rescue mission. It
Yeah.
rescues us from this ridiculous story that we're believing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree with you completely. That's exactly how I see it too. Because it rescued me. So
Oh, me
uh,
too. I would have still been telling everybody my story.
great.
And
Even now when I I don't even tell my story anymore, but when I do, if ever it comes up to it, I don't feel attached to it. It's like it happened to somebody else,
right. Yeah,
which
that's what
is,
I
I mean,
think.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So like it never happened at all. So you want to read now from within this framework?
Okay. Within this framework of emphasis on relationships, however, Bill received his PhD in psychology in the spring of 1949. His research focused on psychophysiological changes in galvanic skin response, heart rate, and respiration in clients tested before and after Rogerian psychotherapy as compared to a control group. Simply stated, his research showed that being loved, appreciated, and listened to positively affects both mind and body. These are our needs. Although now, 60 years later, that is old information. At the time, it was revolutionary. Everyone who knew Bill remembers his saying how bizarre it was for him to be involved, even though unknowingly, first with a project that resulted in merciless devastation, and then one that espoused the practice of unconditional positive regard. As part of a standard psychology curriculum, Bill would have been familiar with the work of Dr. Gardner Murphy, a pioneer in the field. In his book, Personality, a biosocial approach to the origins and structures, published in 1947, Murphy gives an excellent and comprehensive overview of the world of personality research. At the time Bill entered the field, in the foreword, he writes, "But lest the reader waste time upon what he does not want, it must be emphasized that this is not a book on diagnosis or therapy of personality problems, or upon any type of clinical approach. It is simply an attempt at evaluation of data on how personality grows." It is fortunate for readers that he limited his topic to the single one, as 927 pages later, we have a recap of those major areas of research to which Bill would contribute significantly. From today's viewpoint, the information Dr. Murphy provides, current at the time, seems limited. It lacks today's high level of technological sophistication that has made possible amazing advances in neuroscience. Much less was known then about brain function genetics and epigenetics and the body-mind connections, specifically as they relate to the personality development. The body-mind connection was, you had introduced me, Lynn, to John Sarno's, and I got his book, and he's all about body-mind connection. And you see the excitement of realizing that, we have so many gifts from our brothers from the past, just from all these beautiful philosophies. Nor was the interest in Eastern philosophy as widespread then as now. Because of such limitation, Bill was very attracted to any new and different approaches, particularly any related to the influence of positive relationships. And that is A Course in Miracles. That's what it does. It just brings everything into the holiness, the wholeness, and just the love for each other, the essence of who we are. Murphy championed the idea that people are already highly informed at birth with fundamentally different and unique predispositions. First voiced by Hippocrates in 370 BC, the idea was predominant for centuries. Only in the early 20th century did researchers of time, constrained by 10th century models of both the universe and the individual, formulate behaviorism, the notion that people are born with predispositions and could have their behavior molded at will. By mid-century, when Bill was entering the field of psychology, that temporary reversal of psychological theory was coming to a close. Carol is just brilliant, too, in the way she writes. And the earlier premise that we are born inherently unique with distinctive energy patterns was really discovered and newly researched. Murphy also lamented Western researchers' failure to examine the Eastern approach to man's psychology, which included the spiritual dimensions of life. In a future psychology of personality, there will surely be a place for directly grappling with the question of man's response to the cosmos, his sense of unity with it, the nature of his aesthetic demands upon it, and his feeling of loneliness or of consummation in his contemplation of it. It is quite likely that selfhood would be better understood when reference is made to the primordial non-self matrix from which it arises, and that the synthesis, the capacity of human nature to function itself and non-self levels at the same time, or to alternate when it has no desires, may prove to be enrichment of personality far greater than that which the cult of self-contained, self-defined individuality can grant. Okay. Yeah, do
So
you want to read the rest? Because we have like 2 minutes.
yeah, and actually, I think maybe this is a place we can stop and come back next week because I think this is an important point too, that the difference between people believing that let me see if I can put a bookmark. Ooh, no. People believing that we're born with a certain predisposition, which if you're a parent, you have a baby, you know that baby came into this world with its own personality.
Yes.
There is no imagining that somehow it was just an empty blank slate that could be molded. I mean, you can do some molding, but for the most part, your child, I was talking to my son yesterday and he has now his little boy who will be 2 in August, Arthur, and then the new baby who was born on Christmas, Sammy.
Oh,
And Sammy is like just as sweet as bubbly, just so happy, so sweet, so innocent, so just beautiful. Arthur, he says, he's devious, and he always has had this little little I don't even know what uh just really uh I don't know I don't even know how to describe it. He'll, you'll tell him, don't drop that, and he'll look straight at you and drop it. He's got that, he's, he's going to do what he's going to do. And, you just watch. Because, that's the difference between these two. And I'm sure Sammy is probably, as he grows up, he'll continue to be sweet and innocent, and he'll probably come up with some, things that are irritating also. But for the most part, Arthur, you could always tell he was like that. He always had that little mischievous, little sprite attitude, just born that way.
yes.
And,
Mhm.
and you can help them to become better people. You can help them to know when it's appropriate to to do things and not. But with both of them, there are things they're going to need to be prepared for. If Sammy is going to be sweet and innocent and trusting, he's going to have to learn that there's you have to pay attention also.
That's
And
right.
I mean, just it's just the way it is. But I love this discussion that she's having about these different psychologists
Me
that
too.
influenced
Mhm.
Bill Thetford.
Yeah.
And wow, what a beautiful.
Well, if we look at Bill's life, the way he ended up transitioning, he's a perfect miracle. That book really, he was an example. I mean, Helen was too in a way, but not like Bill because Bill was the first student of A Course in Miracles. And he just
Exactly.
died on Independence Day. It was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I'm going to stop this share.
Thanks, Lynn.